Bonjour, everybody. For those that are here, we're a small group, and that's okay. I never think of quantity. I like quality. That's my life. I want quality in life. So it looks like I've got quality people with me. So if at any point you have a question or you have a comment during this presentation, just feel free to put up your hand or put it in the chat, and I'll gladly stop whatever I'm saying or doing. But first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm a person with many different names because I'm a full-time artist, but I'm also a character. Yeah, this guy behind me. Um, so a lot of people call me Tibert le Voyageur, which is, well, go ahead and try to say that. Tibert le Voyageur. And, and the Voyageur is a character. I mean, a voyager was around 200 years ago paddling canoes. A lot of them were French Canadian, but they came from many different cultures. And eventually, a lot of them were hired Métis also, which explains a little bit of who I am. I'm a mixture of French Canadian and Métis ancestry. And well, this character here is Sibaya Le Voyageur. And the reason I say he's a character is because he never really existed. But I like to tell kids that are grade 3 and younger that I fell asleep for 200 years and woke up in the future, and they believe me, right? And I'm gonna dress up like a voyageur, and I'm gonna tell them voyageur stories of canoeing, and we go on imaginary canoe rides, and we do all kinds of fun things like that. And on top of it, there are comic books of Thibert le Voyageur. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of free advertising here, but it's free in the way that you could go to this website, thibertvoyage.ca, and you could go check out comic books, which will really give you a good idea of what a voyageur lifestyle was like. So feel free to check that out. All right, thibertvoyage.ca. But Thibert is not a bad name. I mean, it's not a fake name. It's based off of my real name. My real name is Robert. Yeah, go ahead and try to say that. Robert. It's an rolling name, right? You have to roll. But when I was a kid, I couldn't say my own name. I used to say it like this. Robert. Yeah. And I'm raised in a French Canadian and in like Métis family, so I didn't speak English till I was 12. So even this French guy couldn't say his own name. I had to practice, and the way I practiced was doing this every day was, but it didn't sound like that at first. It sounded like this, like, and with a bit of practice and more practice, and eventually I could say my name, Robert. Yeah. Um, which is where Tibet comes from. I'm not especially tall. I am petit, small. So my friends and family call me Petit Robert, Tibert, which is kind of a normal thing. It's not insulting at all. Everybody in the family, my uncles and aunts on both sides of the family, they all had a T name. So if you want to come up with your own French Canadian Métis name, it's pretty easy. You take the second part of your name, like a syllable, so split up your name in syllables. I've got Robert, and usually you don't take the first part, you take the second part. And unless you're the tallest of the bunch, you're going to be a T. So everybody's a T except for the tallest, and then the tallest gets to be a grand, which is tall, right? So there you go. So you can make up your own T name, which is perfectly fine. And if you've only got one syllable, well, you go with that one. Or sometimes you just go with the better sounding one. But anyways, that's how our names work out. And when my mom was upset, she used to call me Robert, right? But when she was happy and we played games and stuff, it was Rob. Rob kicked the ball, So I've got all these names, right? Rob, Robert, Thibert, and they're all fine. Go ahead and use whatever name you want to call them. Just not Robert. That's not me. That's some other guy. But I'm a storyteller, and not only that, but I like to juggle, and I also play music. And this is kind of how it was when I was younger. We'd go by the river. We had a camper on my aunt's lot, and by the Rat River, By the way, I'm not in Ontario. I'm in Manitoba. So you can look up the Rat River on Google, and you'll find Manitoba. And my aunt had a lot, and we'd go and have campers, and we'd spend most of the summer out there by the river. And at nighttime, on the weekends especially, there was always a big fire, and people would eat sort of in their areas, or sometimes we eat with the cousins, and then we'd sit around the fire and tell stories. And then when it got dark, instruments were pulled out and people played music, and that was normal. That was how I spent most of my summers. So today I want to share a little bit of that with you, just a touch of it. Huh? Some music, some tricks, and we'll finish off with a story by the fire. But first of all, I said I juggled. All right, it's true. But if you want to call yourself a professional juggler, which I sort of am. I say I sort of am because there's two kind of criteria. One is you got to get paid to juggle. And I've been hired to do specifically juggling, so that works. But the second one is you got to invent an original routine. Yeah. I mean, here, I'll show you what I mean. So this here is 3-ball juggling. And that's the kind of stuff I did when I was younger around the fire. Now and again, do a couple tricks. Saw my uncle do the same. Different kind of tricks, not necessarily juggling, but different kind of jokes. But I figured, doing all right. But all these tricks you see here, I didn't invent. These are stock tricks. Other people invented these tricks. So I wanted to, invent my original tricks. How do you do that, right? How do you come up with original things that nobody's ever done? I mean, I looked on YouTube, but obviously everything on YouTube has been done. I read books. Doesn't matter. Whatever's in the book, someone did it before you. So how do you do that? Well, I started looking back, right? I wanted to invent some new, but then I thought, maybe there's something that my ancestors or my family, maybe there's something we do that's kind of original that I could use, And right, I remembered around the fire, there were always these things. Usually for the soup, for eating. But, if you got 2 spoons and you got a few musicians, well, the kid always wants to play along, so you give him 2 spoons. Make sure there's a space there, right? Hold on to them. Spoons. Yeah. To play music, right? So I figured, well, if my family likes to play spoons and I like to juggle, maybe I can do some spoon juggling. So I picked up a ball and I started inventing some new tricks, right? I started I've got sticky spoons. I should have cleaned my spoons before doing these tricks. They know, not sticky at all. Just my first set of new tricks. But apparently not good enough. Nobody even clapped their hands. Too late. If I have to ask for it, it's too late. So I had to come up with better tricks. Right? So I started working on some classics. Like under the leg. Under the other leg, under one leg, under the other leg, under one leg, and now I'm doing a little voyageur jig for y'all. All right. Okay, some other classics behind the back. Hey, behind the other back. All right. I see what some people are thinking. Spoon juggling, right? Spoon juggling means you should juggle the spoons. Oh, I dropped one. That's okay. I'll forgive myself later. I'll forgive myself later. But I wanted to give myself a challenge. When I'm inventing a new routine, I had to come up with better tricks. And 1 ball, 1 spoon. 2 balls, 1 spoon? Is it physically possible? Of course it is. But I'd never seen it done. I had to come up with a way to practice the trick. I started with the ball in hand, ball and spoon, hand to spoon, spoon to hand. started doing that like every day for 5 minutes. So if you want to practice at home, get a couple of eggs and get some potatoes. Get some potatoes and 1 spoon, and you'll be just as good as I am soon enough. So, anyways, I practiced that, and after about a month, I could do hop, 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 hop. Aha! Spoon juggling. Yeah. Now, I wanted to come up with an original routine, and well, I mean, oh, thank you. I play the role of a voyageur, right? I often even dress up like the character of Tibert le Voyageur. And I thought, well, I need to come up with a voyageur kind of trick, right? I mean, for the finale of a show or something like that. So, well, here's what I came up with. I mean, we know voyageurs spend a lot of time in canoes, right? And I spend a lot of time in canoes. This summer, that's what I plan on doing with most of my time. But well, you need a paddle if you're in a canoe, right? Voyageurs had paddles. So I got to figure out a paddle trick. All right, let's see. So paddle on the head. All right. Now, 3 balls. En roulant ma boule, derrière chez nous y a un étang. En roulant ma boule, 3 beaux canards s'en vont baignant. Roulis roulant ma boule en roulant, en roulant ma boule en roulant, en roulant ma boule. A little bit of a voyageur finale. There you go. Now that song I was singing was, well, one that we know voyageurs sang in the canoes. Keeping the beat of the paddle, right? But since we're talking about voyageurs, and well, I'm talking a lot about being Métis, I probably should identify. Right. My elders told me that whenever I'm gonna tell Métis stories or show off any furs or things like that, I should always wear this thing. Yeah. This is something that, well, the French Canadian and the Métis wear. Right. Yeah. It's made out of wool. It's got an arrow pattern in there. Anybody recognize it? You know what this is? This is a ceinture fléchée. Go ahead and try to say that. Ceinture fléchée. Yeah. Arrowed belt. Or a sash. A lot of people call it a sash, and that's fine. But yeah, you see the arrow pattern in my belt? That's where the name comes from. Ceinture fléchée. Now, the voyageurs used to wear it as a tool. Right? It's very long for good reasons. If you were paddling all day long, you'd want one of these. You put it on really tight around the belt, right, around the waist. Oh, put it on nice and tight. You got to turn. Even getting a friend holding on to it to make it even tighter makes it better. When you get to the other end, you don't need to worry about putting a knot. Right? All you do is you run your hand on the edge, comme ça, now. Grab the other end and pull it back up. And there you go. Make it nice and tight. Make it pretty for ceremony. Well, that's why we wear it today. I mean, we don't wear it like voyageurs used to. I mean, we make it prettier. Voyageurs would make it so nice and tight that it would help you, when you're picking up heavy stuff, just like a weightlifter. Yeah, it's a weight belt, right? Save on hernias. And also in a canoe, it'll keep your back straight, right? So you want to be wearing one in a canoe if you're doing 12-hour days, 13-hour days on those long summer nights. But nowadays, we wear it when we go to festivals. We'll wear it at a wedding. We'll wear it when we meet each other at picnics. So it becomes an identity symbol. And Louis Riel, one of the most renowned Métis leaders of the past, well, when he went to Parliament to sign, that's right, he was a member of Parliament. He did sign the book. It's said that he wore a 12-foot long sash that dragged behind him as he walked into the Parliament House back in the day. So I don't wear it lightly. And my elders told me, always wear it with pride. Alors voilà ma fierté. But I said that we'd be telling stories and playing a little bit of music. Right? And for that, we need a fire. And, well, I'm in my home studio. I'm not going to try to make you believe that I'm outside, but making a fire indoors is tough. But I do have a candle, but I'll need to find a way to light my candle. Right, I've got here my sac à feu. Yeah, sac à feu. Fire bag. Sac à feu. Sac is bag, feu is fire. That's what we call it. And well, every voyageur would have had one, and well, most of my Métis ancestors certainly carried one. And well, what do you got in here? Right, something to make fire. Huh. Let's see. Not matches. Let's see what. Oh, look at that. Yeah, well, that's what every person should have in their sac à feu. This is probably a little bit of dry moss, but in my case, I'm just going to show you these objects here. Yeah. Now, if anybody's ever played Minecraft, you know exactly what these are. Flint and steel. Yeah. And well, back in the day, to make fire, I mean, you needed a spark. Yeah. So that means you had to trade something to get the metal, right? And you also had to trade something else to get the flint, because that's not found just anywhere. So these are trade items, and they've been traded, well, for hundreds and thousands of years. So thousands of years with the flint. Yes, there were trade routes thousands of years ago where flint was being traded. And eventually when the Europeans came, they had the steel. So I like to think of it as a beautiful story where two people can, well, learn to stay warm together. Okay? One brought the flint, the other brought the steel. Together we can make fire, which is life. Okay? So anyways, I want to make a fire here. All right, let's see. All right, let's. Yeah, I'm missing a little bit of wood. That's what's missing. I'm gonna need your help. Okay, I'm gonna need your help with this. Yeah, I know. But there's not many of us, so everybody, I need your help. Just imaginary wood. So we need imaginary axes. Go ahead, pull out your imaginary axes. All right, let's start cutting down a couple trees. Come on, stack. Very good. Oh, look out, timber! Okay, now we're just gonna cut off the branches. Just make it a small fire this time. Okay, now all those branches, throw them my way, okay? Chuck them. Throw them my way. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna grab those branches. And I'm gonna make a little pile here. All right. Flint and steel. All right. Let's get a couple of good sparks. Oh, there we go. Okay, now blow. Everybody together, blow. Very good. There you go. Yeah. Now we got a fire. Right? I know some of you think it's not a real fire. Doesn't count. Well, I told you about the candle. Wait, let's see. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of fire here. Just a little bit of. Woo! Okay. I'll bring it over here. All right. Just gonna get that real flame going. There you go. Ooh, aha! We did make it together. Look at that. It's a real fire, right? Nothing like building a fire together, right? Now we can stay warm together. But I told you I'd play some music, and now we got a fire, and that means we're safe. And maybe I could play some of this for you. Bonjour. Welcome, Michelle. Yeah, look at that instrument, eh? Some people might recognize it. It's got many different names. Let's talk about that after you hear it. Ah ben merci. What a strange sound, eh? But I'm sure you've heard it before. It's an instrument you don't see too often, but I'm sure you've heard it if you've ever seen cartoons like Tom and Jerry, like Tom Cat goes to grab Jerry the Mouse and it goes, right? So it's often used for sound effects. Very good. Mouth harp. Yeah, it's got many different names. Mouth harp, jaw harp, all great names. En français, we call it a ruine babine. Go ahead and try to say those words. Ruine babine. And your babine? Those are your babines. Ruin means to ruin, to destroy, to break. Yeah, yeah. Look, it's a sharp piece of metal. And if that sharp piece of metal touches my lip, it cuts. If it touches my tongue, it cuts. I've chipped the tooth playing this instrument before. So it's a very hard instrument to play. But that being said, everybody always says, Rob, how do you play? Well, if it's not in my mouth, listen up. Not much going on there, eh? Got to put it in your mouth. But there I wasn't breathing. You got to breathe. Go ahead, breathe with me. Another thing it really likes is tonguing movements like this. Go ahead. It likes clicking sounds. Écoutez, listen up. Now it loves vowels, and that explains how I can move, change the sound, shape it. A, E, I, O, U en français, in French, and English. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Écoutez. How do you spell ruin babin? You're pretty close. Ruin is the same word in French as in English, Ruin, but you add an E, ruin, babin. You had it pretty much spelt right, just take off one of the N's. So babin, yeah. Ruin babin. Yeah, and if you search jaw harp or ruin babin, you'll find a lot more videos and stuff like that of people playing, which is great because now with YouTube we could learn that way. But I learned this before YouTube. And I think I like to think I came up with this way of playing. Yes, well, that was beatboxing with la guimbarde. Yes, guimbarde, bombarde, trompe. These are all words you're going to hear in French. In English, there's jaw harp, juice harp, which is a strange name because people don't like saying Jew's harp because it's been called a Jew's harp many times. So jaw harp, Jew's harp, juice harp, and French, yeah, bombard, gambard, and pretty much every other language you can imagine has a name for it or multiple names for it. Because pretty much, well, every culture invented a version of this. Even the Inuit up north made them out of ivory. We've found one at the Manitoba Museum, and they also one of my ancestors married the guy who started up the Hudson's Bay Company. So the Nonsuch that came over about almost 400 years ago at this point, or not, sorry, 200 some. My Anyways, I'll have to look up my numbers again. But when the Nonsuch came over, they had 20 of these in stock on the boat to start up the Hudson's Bay Company. And when they met the Inuit, they wrote that the Inuit picked up the instrument and started playing, not needing a lesson, because the Inuit had been playing a duck feather, so a large duck, a duck feather that they could play the same way. So this instrument shows up everywhere, and even in Australia with the didgeridoo, they found evidence of having a similar instrument down there. And you can make it out of wood, you can make it out of just about almost any material. So there you have it. You just heard one of the oldest instruments on the planet, and sadly though, we don't play it very much anymore. I mean, maybe not. We call it a ruiner of lips for a reason. It's pretty brutal on the lips. But now we play things like this, right? Harmonica. And if we look at the harmonica, if we look inside the harmonica, well, it's essentially the same instrument, just a bit more refined. Because what they did with the harmonica is, and here I took off the caps, you can see on the inside, it's like a series of reeds, one beside the other, and you can see one of the reeds broken on my harmonica. That's why I broke that one. But it's like having 10 jaw harps one beside the other, and you just blow through the holes, right? So my uncles, they played harmonica. My père, which is my grandfather, he played jaw harp, right? But by the time I came around, I had heard the jaw harp, I'd seen it, but it wasn't really being played that much. They were mostly playing stuff like which is like a lot of like country and blues, right? It had come up from the south, and the harmonica replaced a lot of that kind of old time jigging music. But it's still around, right? Now we just have both, which is great. So there you go, a little bit of harmonica, and since I got the harmonica out, I might as well pull out another traditional old timey instrument. That this one was still getting played around the fire, and still to this day, if you go to a jam, you're going to see someone pull it out, right? Washboard, yeah, made for washing clothing, but you put it around your neck, and if you got a harmonica in your hand, well, you can do two things at once. Huh? With a bit of beatboxing in there too. So never be shy to add something new, right, to something that's traditional, and that's how we keep culture going. Now, I noticed that we've got a few minutes left till we're at the 45, but is it okay if I go past, like, to tell a story? Yeah? Yeah. It won't go too far past. I've got the fire there for a reason. It's there to tell a story. And well, this story is an old Métis legend. It was passed on to the Festival du Voyageur, which is a Métis French Canadian festival that we celebrate out here in February. Come and celebrate with us if you wish. And during that festival, we give sashes to everybody. Everybody gets to be Métis for a couple of days. So this story was given to the festival from an elder. And well, I'm at Fort Gibraltar, which is a fort in the middle of Winnipeg where the festival kind of happens around. I'm one of their regular storytellers, and I've been telling the story now for about 20 years. So it starts off a long time ago, before there were humans in Canada. I mean, in this part of the world, there were giants. And the giants were living pretty peacefully. I mean, and if you don't believe me, who do you think dug out all the rivers and the lakes, and who planted all the trees? Who built the mountains? It's the giants, right? And the giants, well, at the time, there weren't any bugs. There weren't many animals either. There were mostly just plants. And most of the giants were vegetarians. Until one day, the humans started showing up. And when the humans started showing up on the land, most of the giants went away, except for one giant. One giant decided to stay. And he took up a very bad habit. He started eating humans. Yeah, he was an especially mean giant. And that's a problem, right? That's a giant problem for the humans. And well, there's a warrior that decided that she would take care of this problem. Yeah. And she left the village. She left without anything in her hands. Not a weapon, no armor, nothing. But she had a plan. She decided she would find the giant by following the giant tracks. And that's pretty easy in the prairie over here. And giants leave really big footprints. So she followed the giant tracks through the prairies that brought her to the forest, the boreal forest. And while following a giant track in the forest, pretty easy too. There's broken trees everywhere. So she just followed the giant track all the way to the giant's house. Now, it wasn't an especially big house by giant standards, but for a human, I mean, it was a huge house. And our warrior, well, this is where she put her plan into action. She went and laid down right in front of the house. She pretended she was dead. That was her plan. And that's when the giant stepped out of his house and saw the human. Ha 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 ha! Oh, humans, it's become so easy hunting you. I don't even need to chase after you. You come and die at my doorstep. And the giant picked up the warrior, put her on his shoulder, and brought her inside. The giant was planning on making human soup. But it noticed that there was no wood in the cabin. There was no wood to make a fire. So the giant put the human down, went outside to go cut some wood. This gave our warrior a chance. She started looking around. For something that could kill a giant. And she found a paring knife, but it was the giant's paring knife. It was huge. She held it with two hands, like a sword. And our warrior was very smart. She knew something about giants that most people don't know. She knew that a giant's heart is not in the same place as a human's heart. So think about it. Where is a human's heart? Right? Human. Right there, right? It's a human's heart. A giant's heart's not in the same spot. So think about it. Where would a giant's heart be? No, it's not. It's not the head. Go lower. Lower, lower, lower. All the way here. Yeah. In the ankle. Yeah. A giant's heart is in its ankle. And the warrior knew this. So she had a sword. She went and stood by the door. Now the giant was out cutting wood, and well, he was done. So he had his hands full of woods, and he comes back to the cabin, hands full. He kicks open the door, Exposing the ankle, our warrior stabs him right in the heart. And the giant, well, he doesn't die right away. He starts falling back and he screams, "Ah, human, you killed me, but I will get my revenge." And then the giant died. Well, warrior didn't want the giant to get its revenge. Saw the wood, figured, I know, I'll burn it. So she makes a big fire and she burns the giant piece by piece, burns the giant all night long on the fire, all night long. And well, morning comes and there's nothing but ash left in the fire, nothing but ash. And well, in the morning that breeze blows by sometimes, and well, the breeze blew by and it picked up some of that white gray ash and brought it up in that air. What are these things? What are the ash? The ash turned into mosquitoes. The giant did get its revenge. Now, instead of having one giant that eats us now and again, we have millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of giants that eat us around the fire all summer long. And that is the legend of the mosquito. So, Métis, since we are sitting around a fire together, just before we leave each other, are there any questions or comments about anything that I talked about today, or anybody want to add anything?
First of all, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for giving. It's amazing. That's an amazing. For the Métis sash, I got a question for that, because I've been purposely asking around for years and years and many years, over a decade of when I've been out at powwows, and if anybody knows the meanings of the colors. And I finally found somebody a couple of years ago from an area around Ground River, and he gave me the meaning for their sash. And they were talking about the blue representing the river, and the green is this, and but many people couldn't answer those questions. And whether it's like, and forgive me, I'm going to say like the sash like you see on the Bonhomme de Neige, or whatever sash, is there actual meanings, or is it just per family or per area, the colors?
Yes. That's the easiest answer. No, I've got two answers for you. So I've got sort of what I call the museum answer from working at the St. Boniface Museum. And I have sort of the answer that I've picked up along the way from all the different people I've talked to also. So the museum answer is that, historically speaking, and this, we could verify this, right? That's what makes a museum answer, is that you could verify it 3 different ways. And they say that that's true, but it doesn't mean that there isn't more truth to things, right? So anyways, the voyageurs originally, when they started working for the Northwest Company or the Hudson's Bay Company, they were more than encouraged to wear these. They were obligated to wear it for their companies. So part of your pay, and you could verify this in their contracts, off of their first contract, part of their pay was paid in a sash, which was woven in Whitney, England, on a loom. And when they're woven on a loom, they don't have the fléché pattern. They have more of like, it's a different pattern. And they did them mostly block red because it was the cheapest dye. So that's the Bonhomme sash, right? It's like this plain old red sash. And what happens is it's coming out of the boys' pay. So when the voyageurs are signing up, which are mostly young men, they had to be 18, but no, back then some people cheated the age for sure, but 18, 19, 20. And the reason they're taking these jobs is because it's kind of like pipeline workers today. It's like, it's not the greatest of work, but it pays pretty well. So what you want to do is make the most out of it. So grandma started weaving them by hand. A bunch of grandmas started doing that. And so then they had all kinds of colors, and you can find those in museums too, where they had all kinds of colors, which is probably what was available in grandma's, extra yarn stock, right? But then what happened is there's a bunch of grandmas that got together in Assomption in Quebec. So the Assumption sash, it was a cottage industry. So it was cheaper to buy it from the Assumption ladies, right? The bunch of ladies that got together and wove these, than to buy it from the companies. So a lot of voyageurs started having the Assumption sash. Now I have a huge sash collection, but they're not all right here. But I'd be able to show you Assumption sash. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so ancestors from there for sure. Well, just give me a second. I know where that one is, so I'll be right back. I've got a bag of sashes. When I go here, I'll get rid of our fire here so we can better see. So yeah, so what ends up happening is the Assumption sash. Well, let's pull out a few. So now this is the Union sash, which is the red color. We've got the Métis blue, which is what the MMF folks like to wear mostly. Métis white and blue with the Métis infinity symbol on there. Let's see where I've been talking about the Assumption sash, and oh, it's not right there. The one I'm wearing is similar to one. I wonder where those went. Oh, maybe they're here. Anyways, too deep. But the Assumption sash is sort of the classic one you see, and it's the one that Uriel was wearing. It's a pattern of specific colors, and a lot of people wear that. So what happens over time is some families start developing some designs, and you got to remember that a lot of the bosses in the Northwest Company were also Scottish, and the tradition of tartans is also something that's fairly modern, where families have specific tartans. That's not historically something that was happening like 1,000 years ago in Scotland. That's fairly modern. So it's the same kind of thing that happened with the sashes. As time goes on, some people get attached to certain colors and they start identifying with those colors, whereas other people just say, ah, whatever, it's my sash. What ends up happening here, well, here's a knockoff actually of an Assumption sash. Here we have a festival which starts at one point exporting their sashes to China. So this is a China made in China sash, and it becomes sort of a standard in itself. And then all these other sashes I'm showing you is from a company called Ichiboy. Ichiboy is a great, is one of my Métis friends in the community here, and he took it upon himself to start kind of making all kinds of new patterns, which is made out of alpaca wool. You can also buy Ichiboy. Ichiboy, it's a hard one to spell. But it comes from the expression of Ichiboy. I'm gonna try to remember. It's got like a Ichiboy, something like that. Ichiboy. I think I'm pretty close. And yeah, that's what he's figured out. And it's Miguel Viejafort is his name. Is he went to Peru just to travel, and he met some indigenous weavers in Peru who use alpaca wool. So he's created a whole business, modern day business, of getting these people in a co-op, they're well paid, in Peru to make sashes that we now wear up north. They make them out of sheep's wool, but it's very expensive. But the alpaca wool is super soft. So now we're wearing it around our necks for winter as scarves. We're using it for all sorts of different reasons because it's just super soft compared to the sheep one. So I just think it's a beautiful story of how a people we don't need to be stuck in history, right? We don't need to be, we can move on and we can create new, but it doesn't mean we forget things. That's not what I'm saying. It just means that traditional life keeps being invented, right? Like the people in 100 years will look at what we do as traditional, right? So staying conscious of that and continuing on as best we can is sort of the goal. Yeah.
Merci. That was the best answer I've ever received about the sash.
Sorry. Bit of a long-winded one, but merci.
Oh, but that's amazing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other? Oh, there you go. Someone found it. Ichiboy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and lots of great products on Ichiboy. He's really expanded. I'm really proud of Miguel. He really pushed through. So probably someone else that's a good contact for you guys too. Yeah, and he knows a lot about the history of the Métis. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'm going to blow out the candle and say merci beaucoup. Merci. And for those who doubted that it's real fire, for sure it's real if we make it real, right? So there you go. So merci beaucoup, and I wish everybody a good evening and well, good celebrations for the rest of the night.
Awesome. Merci beaucoup. Bon voyage. And thank you very much for coming out.
Merci.
Merci, Rod.